Recorded November 20th, 2025. Good afternoon, Franklin. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Edward?
I am doing
Human large language model is
HLLM. I guess I not I fancy myself creative, but I think that I'll have to admit someone gave that to me. I was working on something, somebody said, man, you like the human large language model, man. Is there anything you haven't touched, broken, know about? I was like, I'm just a learner, man. I said, you probably be better off calling me the Jeopardy contestant that never made it. I just never made it. I'm a security Jeopardy contestant. In this time of the year, man, I took it, and I was very appreciative of that because it seems, and maybe this is something because this is what Brody and I used to do. When the weather got colder, we started getting into the certification contest because we had more time to sit at home. So I was putting my cert and renewal list together, and I was checking my CISP certification to make sure it was still current. I'm like, dude, I don't need any more CPE. They're like, I think you had to get 120 in 3 years. I'm like 130 something plus, right? And I'm already, so I'm sandbagging the CPEs because I don't want to put them in now, and then they won't count when it's time to renew. I don't have to renew my CISSP until next year. But it's been a minute since you and I have really talked about certifications and stuff. We need to. I know it was on the original docket to talk about this year when Ray was here, but I think we probably do need to come back the first of the year when everybody's sort of out of the holiday mode. December, maybe ask people, what's your certification or continuing education and credentialing plans for 2026? Someone was to ask me what I wanted for Christmas. I was like, I don't know, maybe to get my GCFA when I have to take the exam. I'll take it.
I was happy and sad to see that you passed the Defender for Cloud with AI applied certification, or I can't remember the name now. So that means it's just too easy of a test. Everybody should be going out and taking the applied certification.
Yeah, I did it. So for those, explain to everybody first of all, we'll finish to that and we'll go through that. So yeah, everything's good, man. I had to travel to New York to deliver a Defender for AI internal session at Microsoft, and then there was a customer facing one that I delivered, which was sort of like a shadow hunter, capture the flag. So you're looking at vulnerabilities and recommendations on how to secure your cloud workloads in Azure using Defender for Cloud and the subsequent tool sets inside of it, and a little bit of Sentinel and a little bit of Defender portal, Advanced Honey. They was running some KQL queries, which pin that to the top of the conversation that came from some of the students that were in it in the shadow hunter capture the flag thing. Looking for the holiday season. I need some wind down time. Putting my certification and credentialing goals. Started to put those to paper for what I want to do next year. And feeling healthy. Running a little bit more, but not a lot, because I'm trying to not run a lot. I'm trying to be fit rather than be skinny and not fit, which is sort of oxymoron. Was really cool. Really happy that the stuff that Rod shared today on how he's automating a bunch of the stuff. I was trying to duplicate what he was doing using AI to sort of write the back end to do it. I didn't realize he had a third-party tool that was facilitating the automation of it. So I was using that. And then it's toward the end of the year, so I needed some tax write-offs. So what I did was I got the enterprise subscription to Grok, Perplexity, Copilot, Claude, and Gemini. So I pay for all the models. It is amazing what you can do if you can pipe the results from the model and start doing stuff. And I was doing it semi-manually. Now I know what Rod shared with us today inside his blog, his post. I can automate the piping of the response from a particular prompt in one model into the other. And what my thing is, I didn't want to put the credentials for the login, but if you can call the API inside that tool they gave me, I don't have to throw the credentials in the prompt. I can see him put it in the back end. So I'm having it, I'm creating a loop where I write a prompt and I'll say, do this thing. And then it'll pipe the results over and then a subsequent prompt into the next AI model, say, improve this by 10%. And I'll say, improve this by 5%, improve this by so-and-so. And it gets better. But when you tell it that this result of this prompt came from another AI model, it seems like the models get competitive with each other when you tell it came from another model. So I'm playing around with it. Nerd stuff, man. That's all. What about you, man? What have you been doing?
I was all Ignite, man. So getting up to speed with everything that they announced. But we can go over all those details. I have a lot of opinions.
A lot of opinions. Well, let's get into
I sent you a picture of me and the dog watching.
That I laughed out loud. So I was on the podium and I had a break. We were inside WhatsApp. As you see the picture of your dog sitting there at night, and then when 365 came up, the dog was asleep.
Agent 365 put him to sleep.
Put her to sleep. So your dog is a security dog only. It was. She was all the way looking at security, and then when 365 came on, she fell asleep. That was funny. That was good. So before we get into the book of Ignite or the book of business or whatever they do, matter of fact, what's today? Thursday? Yes, today is Thursday. This is the last day of Ignite. Yeah, this is the day when you go to these big conferences, you bring an extra suitcase because nobody wants to take stuff home. So you get a lot of free stuff. So you just hang around.
Are they still doing the concerts, like they used to at the events, or are they just not large enough yet now with a return to conference scenario going on?
I think they sort of got away from the concerts, and it's really trying to be big time and try to be mainstream and brag about what parties you got invited to that nobody else knows about. That's the thing now.
I went to Universal Studios in Florida so many times. It was great. You go in at like 8 o'clock, there's no lines for the rides. They only had certain rides open, but they were the good ones, So I do miss those days, of traveling to the events and doing that.
Yeah. I missed Ignite with the crew. You and I didn't make it last year. It was in Chicago, right? Yes. I think it was in Chicago. So Brody, Ray, Rod was there. Morton was there, Henry, all the MVPs that have been on the show, but you and I weren't able to make it when we had planned.
I obviously I can't go because I'm not an MVP, but that's okay.
Hey, man, we all have aspirations, brother. We all have aspirations, but you are a SANS GIAC Forensics 508 GFCA certified individual, and I'm not. So that in $9 will get you a cup of coffee.
I actually have to renew next year, which is crazy that 4 years have gone by so fast. You just have to have the education credits, but then you buy the material and then get the renewal. So I'm looking forward to seeing all their updated material that's out there from 4 years ago.
The update material, the cost is not something that is super secret. That's got to be like $250, right?
It was like $400 for the renewal on your cert or something like that.
Yeah, and you get
that was 3 years ago. I can't remember. So
yeah, I it's so funny you say that. I had all my SANS training material out. I was reading it, the hard copy books, because I'm still a paper guy. So I was looking at. Well, I took the Security 555 early on. It was all about logging and forensic analysis using SIM, Splunk, Logstash, Elastic, stuff like that. Yeah. And then the other one I took, the course, was the 541. For cloud security and detection. Obviously, the infamous Forensics 508 that I took. I just didn't have enough focus, man. It wasn't like it was overly.
I was really surprised that you did not pass that test because you knew the content. So back when I took it 8 years ago or whatever, there was a lot about time management that you need to learn. So that's the thing that gets you. But you knew the content. So I was actually quite surprised.
I think my mind, man, coming back, had been on that trip to Europe, was trying to cram it in, and in a room of truth, I tried to overburden and say I will ace all the questions so that if I have self-performance on the lab, I'm still going to pass. I was that close. think I shared I was that close because I almost got all the questions, but I think they model it so even if you get every question right, you still have to have a semblance of performance in the lab. You cannot get the achievement score unless you get in the lab. And I don't know the pointing system in the lab. I don't know if it's an all or nothing. I don't know if you get enough stuff correct in the process of getting the right answer. Do you get a subset of points? But I still retain all of that information around how to do incident response and remediation around Windows and that. It's still a good course.
I gotta say, what happened to me on taking the test is like, of course I made my book, all that fun stuff. And like 3 days before the test, I start studying. I know the stuff inside and out. I go there. It's like the Friday before Christmas, right? And I get it there. They're like, oh, sorry, we're closed. You didn't get the notification. We're having our Christmas party, right?
I remember you telling me. And then the other time,
I'm like, no. I'm taking my test today. So I actually took the test while they were having their Christmas party.
I remember you telling me. I remember the first time you tried to take the thing, you got sick. I mean, you had gotten sort of sick, and I'm like,
no, the OSCP. I say that I took that like 2.5 times because the first time I took the OSCP, I failed and deserved to fail. The second time I took it, I was really sick, and since I'd already paid for it, I didn't want to cancel it. So I kind of consider that like only half a test because of how sick I was. And then the third time I took it, I passed, and I should pass at that point. So that's why I say I took the OSCP test 2.5 times because of being sick that one time.
Yeah, well, before it happens, I like those exams. I think they are fair enough. My only thing is I've always did it in on demand. And to our audience, we're talking about the SANS GX certifications. My thing is that they are 70% of time commitment and dedication and 30% actual skill. You got to put time in. If you don't put the time in, unless you work in it every day, you're going to have difficulty because the time management piece is absolutely, even with the index that I had that was really, really good, it wore me out. Particularly when I got to the lab piece and I was spinning it up. And one thing I will say, I put feedback in it. And so if anybody from sans.org is listening, you have to optimize your test, because when you go to a lot of these testing facilities, they're old, they're antiquated, and they have the smallest monitor they can put in there. You cannot see. I'm used to seeing on 32-inch widescreen monitor. You see all the monitors behind me, right? But when you get to a monitor and now you have to take an exam on a 24.
You need to go to the 50+ testing center. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I need to go through the AARP testing center. I've not seen a decent testing center. I still go to the one in person. It's around the corner. I don't like doing the Proctor one. So when I did some exams, the darn thing crashed. And like, well, you have to start over. So I go to the live testing center because it's live, it's close to the company. But I literally, you go in there and the people had you testing on a 23-inch monitor. So it's hard to see. It's hard to try to, slide things over the way you could on a big monitor to be able to, do it in a lab. You see the objectives. You have to close it now to be able to have enough room to be able to scroll across, and that drives you crazy, right? So what I've done is I went down to the testing manager and said, hey, can you put a bigger monitor in here? If I come in the day before and remind you, because they have bigger monitors in the main office. She's like, well, no, the monitors have to stay in there, so and so. We don't get it. I said, cannot see. And sure enough, I went down there the week before, told them I was getting ready to take an exam. And I went in there and they had taken a monitor out of the office and put a big one in there. And then when they were done, they take it out. But only they can. Because I asked them, can I bring my own monitor? It's like, you can't bring anything to the testing center, sir. It's like, oh okay. I'll bring my own monitor.
That's a good point. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to look at, and you're trying to scroll over and you're trying to write Python. I'm trying to look at something, then you got to open up the Windows thing because they want you to look at the event logs, and the stuff is that small. I was like, oh, I can't see. And then I wasted 4 minutes looking for a dialog box, and you couldn't see where it told you to scroll down to get the information that you needed. And so I kept trying to open up one of the event log files, and I couldn't see it. I said, okay, I kept checking, maybe his name wrong. And sure enough, had I scrolled down, I saw it. And now when I tried, I forget what I was opening it up, maybe Velociraptor or something. I was trying to do it. I couldn't see it. So I wasted 5, 6, 7 minutes just trying to scroll down.
That's a lot of that test. So
that test is hard. Hey, before we get into the business that's igniting all the announcements, I'm going to ask you a question. You know, in the age of artificial intelligence, I'm trying to be less lazy and just quit saying AI, right? AI can stand for all in, who knows? We were doing an exercise, and one of my students wasn't quite as versed, one of my attendees in the course that I led over this week, about KQL. So when they were doing the lab, and they were able, it ran in a VNC, okay? So they have the computer, they bring their own computers, and was asking them to formulate or create this query to be able to see a certain amount of incidents with a certain time with certain criteria. So they inside the VNC, but the person goes, they took the question and just went to the local machine and I forget which AI model they used. They put it in there and wrote the KQL query there in natural language. So my question to you, in the age of artificial intelligence, in the realm of cybersecurity, especially around security products that utilize the KQL or whatever hunting language of choice, I know KQL. I'm sure there are other hunting languages. If you IOC languages like markups like YAML and stuff like that, is it a need to learn KQL from scratch at an expert level when you have natural language to KQL models across every consumer grade AI model or RAG?
So I wrote the original course content for SC200 and the KQL module there. And what I did at that point is I went and looked at all the KQL that was being used in Sentinel at the time and found all the keywords that mattered and all that fun stuff, right? And then that's how that module came about, because KQL is a bigger language, number one, than so the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time you're using the same things over and over again. So I think there is value having an understanding of the 80-20 rule, because whenever I'm generating code, I want to understand what is generated, because a lot of times I will say, no, actually this is what I want, right? And then it will go back and fix to because maybe my prompt was not clear enough of what I actually wanted, right? Because it might not be that it did anything wrong. It might have done exactly what I wanted it to do, but then I look at it and say, this is actually what I want. So I think having the foundational understanding of KQL is what's important out there now. So there's two sides of writing KQL. One is understanding KQL. The other one is knowing your data, right? So the question is the KQL that's being generated, does it know your data well enough for you to get the responses that you want? So that's why in the beginning of that KQL module, we talk about the search command, so you can actually find, where is this IP address in all of the different columns or the different tables, different columns, or whatever, and the search command will give you that capability to see that. So I think that you should have the agentic AI do all, not agent, but LLMs do all of the what I call mowing the lawn work, to get that out of the way, and then you go. But you have to have you need to have an understanding of what's going on, then to make sure it's meeting your needs.
Yeah, I like the analogy. You let it do most of the mowing, and I was going to come back. I'll finish that excellent analogy by saying then you do the edging, because with all of the models out there being able to do natural language to the coding language of your choice or scripting language of your choice, and not just KQL. And for our listeners, if you've been listening to the show, you're probably a security person of some stout. It's Kusto Query Language. The natural language conversion across all the consumer AI models can convert natural language to Python, to Rust, to C++, Sharp, Golang, same thing. And so my thing was, there is a necessary need to understand the foundational of nothing else, why the language exists. All right. What was this interface or this language face created for? And it wasn't created for security. It was created for querying data, right? And then you started putting security intelligence around it, and it become the linchpin of how you did things in Sentinel, Microsoft Sentinel, and Microsoft Defender products, right? But KQL is still a language that you can use to do AI data stuff, data science stuff. So I said my recommendation is maybe buy your foundational book. I recommended Rod's book, Must Learn KQL, and another one by Damian Bunyan-White, and it's pretty good too. Is Learn KQL in a month.
Yeah, just go to Learn and do the SC200 learning path there for KQL and go on your way there. Because
I disagree with that. Let me tell you why.
Why?
If I go learn it for the SC200, it has a security slant. This doesn't have a security slant. It talks about it, but this entirety of this book is be able to look at, it right here has Intune. So I love KQL references that shy away from like signing laws.
So all right, I'll give you that. I mean, I'm the one that was dealing with the job task analysis on the certifications. I was screaming, everybody needs to know KQL, and I was always shot down for that, except for SC200. So I'll give you that.
Yeah, and like now I see this book. This guy must be and he's a device lifecycle management expert. He's an MVP on that. So the majority of his book is actually around Intune, sign-in logs, which is identity and authentication fabric, Intune. Wow, heavily Intune. And I read through the book.
I'm just saying that 80% of the time you're going to be doing the 20% of the language. You do have to understand joins and unions and all that stuff, because that's going to be required, and the parsing that takes place and so on. I still think that overall the even though the samples used to be SQL not security specific, it still gives you the foundational stuff that you're going to see most of the time.
Yeah.
So I would start there, and if you feel that you need more, that's fine. But even when you're talking about Intune, you're still talking about knowing your data. The KQL keywords that you're using probably aren't changing that much. It's just knowing your data.
And knowing what these particular parameters do, because if it just does it for you, you won't even, if you don't know how to reverse engineer it, you won't know how to ask the question. It's like understanding when you got columns return between the left outer, full outer, right outer, left semi, and all these things. Now, people that know SQL and SQL, they understand this. I didn't really realize how much of a slant this book had toward just Intune, almost primarily. And he's getting you to learn it by being able to interact with a thing, which is a device. So I didn't set up the lab, but I would tell folks, if you're going to learn KQL, learn it into conjunction with something else that gives you an additional skill. Learn it when you're learning how to navigate GitHub Copilot, VS Code. And that way you compounding and multiplying your learning. You're learning not only have to interact with KQL in a source product, but in your IDE of choice. Like I learned of a new website from I interviewed someone the other day, and it was a website, and it was called Cloud Code, except for cloud was spelled with a K and code was spelled with a K. And it teaches you like gamifying how to learn how to code, and it's actually pretty cool. So I like that. But I had an opinion, in my opinion, it's always going to be slanted. I had to learn KQL the hard way. Just learn it, right? And learn it. And so But now when I want to do something, I think I'm not using AI to be lazy. It's just that I've already have so many saved KQL queries both in Azure and in Note++ and or in VS Code and the three go-to websites that I know that always get me there. So the 80% of what I'm doing is already, I can get it done like fairly quickly. But it goes back to that when you really need to define the data, that 20% is, do you know the underlying operational, nuances of the language? Because when Sentinel first came out, it was crashing the log analytics workspace because people were writing these KQL queries that were not optimized, and they was timeout in the searches or return a crazy amount of columns and rows in the response. And they ended up being a course called Optimizing KQL. Ofar wrote it, who's one of the program managers over at Microsoft. So I tell our listeners, yeah, you got to learn it. I'll tell anybody, but the learn it at an expert level, like you won't ever have a reference. I tell you this. When I went and did my CCIE, I thought it was the most unfair test. I didn't bitch and moan about it. I said, in the real world, sir, I don't have to rely that I'm in a room with no help, no internet, and not a cell phone to call a friend. How's this test realistic? The proctor's like, when do you want to start? That's it. Because you don't get a book. When I took my CCIE years ago, you get to the lab. You get to bring in 2 CDs of stuff, or they give it to you. You bring a notebook in, and you did have a reference. I forget what it was. Golly, I did that so long ago. And now, realistically, when you're taking an exam, I think that all exams are essentially foundational. They're just foundational, because when you are taking the exam, you're taking it in the sense that you're the only person in the organization, in that team, in the room, on the live fire with no help. That's not how the real world works.
So,
right?
So just to kind of to wrap this up, I mean, the thing is now we have to decide, what are we going to bother learning and saving in memory, your own memory, because it's just not worth it anymore. Not only because we went from the point of, I don't need to remember this, I know where to reference it, now to, I don't even need to worry about where to reference it. I can just go as Copilot and I am good to go.
Well, I'll tell you what the value is. The value of knowing the stuff from scratch is because there are going to be places where you cannot use AI. You cannot use it in an environment. You have to understand the environment that you're operating in. Like, that network is so complex. No AI is going to learn your network with the nuances where you can go, oh crap, I bet the cable's unplugged. Or I bet somebody made a BGP routing change.
Well, you have to know you have to use it for the right thing.
Use it for the right thing. It's always going to be a blend. I am learning AI, and I'm probably a little bit exhausted with the consumer, which is why now all those links you sent me months ago, going back and learning Foundry, going back and learning all these things and how they're out. Now that I get it now. I see it. And so when I'm writing these filter lists, these block lists, being able to write these models and understand how you use them, now I know it because I'm in it and I see it now. So I'm having fun with it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm wasting my time with the consumer grade SaaS piece. The backside is what's cool.
Here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to go back into Foundry, right? Which is funny that they've updated the UI now, right after the applied certification came out using Foundry. And so you heard about the announcement of Work IQ.
Let's talk about it now. So,
okay.
We're going to pivot over and we're going to talk about some of the announcements that came out of Ignite, and I'll let you go first, Franklin. So tell me what did Ignite?
Work IQ right away. I recognized. So let me ask you, what was one of the biggest problems about working with a Microsoft Graph?
I don't know. I guess being able to understand which APIs to call, get pull. I don't know. Right.
So what I want you to do is I want you to look at Work IQ as just an agent, an intelligence layer above the Microsoft Graph or above the Microsoft Graph from its simplest form. Okay. Because now you can go out there and say, tell me all the users X, Y, Z, right? And it will actually go out and do that work for you. So I'm very excited about Work IQ, not because of what it's going to do for me in my job on a daily basis, but that is agentic AI right there. So I think everything you're going to be hearing from Microsoft, I don't know, IQ is just basically an agent. And how much Microsoft is going to learn from implementing Work IQ that's going to then go back out their Foundry and Copilot Studio and everything else for us to implement in our own applications, our own agents is going to be incredible. So I'm actually very excited about that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to follow Ignite. I saw this, but I was on the podium, so I was teaching Defender for AI and some of their stuff. And I say, you know what, just wait. And then when the book of security comes out, and then when all the Ignite notes comes out, I'll do it there. But I threw something in the community chat. Work IQ is an intelligent layer that enhances productivity by connecting organizational and personal data, enabling AI-driven insights and recommendations within 365 applications. Yeah, it's being able to ask the question. Like I would go talk to a coworker. Hey man, blah 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 blah, and I go, this is the answer, right? So I think Work IQ now exposes that tribal knowledge that used to have one or two people that knew.
But did you always have that knowledge there through the Microsoft Graph?
No,
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I just think from the basic standpoint, I think it's doing a lot more than that. But from the basic standpoint, from a foundational standpoint.
But the Microsoft Graph was one of the most powerful things that Microsoft, was all proud of and beat their chest on. But so few people know how to use it to its maximum capacity, right? It was always learning something about
Work IQ. There you go. So now you can just use natural language. But like I said, it's actually an agent that now Microsoft's going to learn a ton from implementing that product at scale that they're going to then push out into the rest of the products for us to use in our own implementations. So I'm very excited about that.
So let me give you my opinion. And I don't know if in 2026 I'm going to become a data scientist first and a security guy second. I believe, in my small opinion, from my small little bald head, for those that are watching me, that the agentic thing is not so much of it automating. It is being able to capture the knowledge and learn. Because if you split hairs, which I don't have any hair, you're not training a model. You're training an agent that uses a model. So do you circumvent some of the stuff that says, don't use my data to train my model? I'm training the agent. Because the agent gets better. The model may not get better. Think about it. The agent can get better if you gave me a textbook and I was able to recant that textbook verbatim in my human biological brain, but I never got access to any more information about that particular topic. Never again. Could I get better? You could. Because the input for someone else asking you the questions and or giving you perspective allows you to make assumptions about the data you already know. Because if you don't, people say, well, think about it. We're going to run out of data to train these models. If everybody had free reign, just think that if everybody said, we don't care. You could scrape the internet. You could scrape Wikipedia. You could scrape everything. And if you did that, how would the models get better? They have to self-innovate by making assumptions and have to have innovation within it. So I can get smarter about a topic, right? So we have to figure out a way that these agents get continuing education credits, but not necessarily back into the knowledge.
I don't think agents are to that point yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
For what's going on.
Well, we call it hallucinations. But for us, it's just being wrong. I just gave you a wrong. How many times I've given you a wrong answer? Because I thought I was right, and I gave you the wrong answer. And you're like, no, Ed, that's not the right answer. Well, based on what I know and what I experienced, I thought it was the right answer. And so you'll know that we are in a tipping point when people start telling the agent that's not the right answer. I'm with something closer to this. And now what if the agents, or what if what if the technology, I don't want to say agents because then we start pinning. What if the technology says you can create, let me write this down. I might need to go patent this.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about there has somewhat to do with memory, and some optimization stuff. All right, so what else did you find interesting about Ignite?
Oh, here's one I love on security. Proactive attack disruption, predictive shielding, and cross-platform defense is in public preview. Microsoft is gaining a groundbreaking ability to anticipate attacker moves during ongoing attacks. So this looks like to me that the automatic attack disruption or adversary disruption is evolving. So I'll grab this and throw it in the chat, and then we'll update the show notes. But this was super interesting, to be able to see this piece. So it looks like if it sees a series of actions that even if they stop, it is becoming predictive of where this actor is trying to go, either laterally or horizontally, right? Escalation, or either I'm escalating my privileges, or I'm doing compromises of credentials going this way, sideways. So being able to look at this, I'll read it outright for our listeners. Microsoft is gaining a groundbreaking capability to anticipate attacker moves during ongoing attacks. Traditionally, even fast response or reactive containing an attacker after malicious actions have already occurred or begin. With predictive shielding, Defender will immediately analyze a caught attack using Microsoft vast threat intelligence, marketing, and graph of the environment, more marketing, and automatically harden the next targets in real time. So I'm thinking dynamic honeypots or dynamic hardening of certain targets. So I brought this up when I heard about it. I'm like, oh my God, this learns so much that you can create artificial or false attack paths, not just honeypots, not just honey tokens. I will give you a hypothetical attack path to make you think that this container is publicly exposed with no SAS keys or anything, or S3 buckets that are unsecured if you're doing something in AWS. It approaches, essentially traps the adversary with nowhere to go. But you have to be careful with that, because there's a wise man that's teaching me incident response, and red teaming, Frank Grimberg said, if you have 0, you have none. If you have 1, you have 2, you have 1. If you capture someone with that, you just tip them off. You tip them off that, oh my God, my first toehold was stopped. And so unless this thing can predict and look around and see if there's other similar attack paths, you tip that adversary off inside your environment. That was really cool to me, though. The other one is sort of similar. I don't get it because I'm like, you're just saying the same thing different. The only thing being different about this: expanded automatic attack disruption in public preview. Microsoft's unique real-time attack disruption, which can isolate compromised endpoints or accounts. Now, this looks different. The first one sounds like it's more Defender for Cloud. This seems like it's more MDE. Is extended to work across third-party services like AWS, Okta, and Proofpoint. That's game-changing. I am now able to take decisive actions in prediction and or disruptive actions across other products, right? My favorite product, which I'm going back to now, even though it doesn't do as much, I don't think it's being maintained, is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, or MCAS back in the days, because it showed you that stuff, and it could do that across these things if you know how to configure it. Now, when a threat is detected via Microsoft Sentinel or Defender, even if the threat originates from a non-Microsoft system, the platform can take immediate actions on those external systems. That is either great or a pink slip. It's either great or a pink slip when you do it that way. For instance, in a scenario when an Entra ID account is phished and used to infiltrate an AWS environment, Defender will not only disable the stolen Entra ID account, but also cut off the attacker's sessions and access to AWS token termination, session termination. That's easy. You terminate it, right? And then you go back and you stop the originating toe point, which is the Entra ID, which is that, because that's important too. I'm not an ID guy like I used to be. You would have to terminate the session, because if you're doing any type of SSO, external identities, and even if you disable that count, that session token and or cookie or session, that session token is still active. So if it's linked to some type of ID account in that other system, and that person gets over to the other side, you may have a bigger problem. This thing's cool, but if someone's able to get over there, well, this is what this, I guess this was supposed to break. So you can stop someone from creating native accounts in that other environment. Okay, that makes sense. I was wrong. Yeah, this capability closes the gap in multi-cloud hybrid environments. Attacks often cross boundaries, so defenders' automatic containment will now follow attackers across those boundaries for security teams. This means faster, unified response. A breach in one system triggers protective measures everywhere, often stopping complex multi-stage attacks before they can be exfiltrated. So those were the two main things that I took from a night, and I'm reading from someone's blog post, so it's pretty good. What about yourself?
I was surprised with the rebranded Defender XDR to Borg XDR. They're sucking in more like Defender for Cloud functionality. They've already assimilated in Sentinel, so that's more and more will be living with inside the unified portal there with inside Defender. So, to see how rapid movement now is that they're bringing in those different products into the Defender portal. And probably the most important announcement, I don't know if it was in the book of news or not, is that Sysmon will be native in Windows 11 coming up.
What?
Yeah.
I am not going to sit here and say I knew that. How did I miss that? When you and I first met,
forget all this AI stuff, man. Sysmon and Windows 11. So there you go.
Hell, when you and I met each other 6.5 years ago, that was one of the fundamental conversations that we had, whereas MDE didn't capture the amount of information Sysmon. We had whole shows about that.
Right. So how much you're using Sentinel to we'll see what MDE decides to capture and not capture. There's some other things about custom detections happening in MDE right now that's going out to Sentinel that you could kind of do before anyways. So the next thing is,
let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this been done years ago? Who owns Sysmon?
I mean, Microsoft does. So
yeah, and that was Mark Ravanovich.
Yeah, he's the one that announced it. So yeah.
Oh, I met him. He's a good dude. He's tall as all get out too. Good old dude.
All right. So the other thing that was important, I know, is Agent 365. Now, Agent 365. If you go back to our first show back with Alistair, talking about what to do with all these agents and how to monitor them, the identities, and all that other fun stuff. You're going to hear about Entra ID, Agent ID. I'm going to get all these names wrong. And Agent 365 for the monitoring side. Agent 365 comes with different personas. One for there's a new URL, ai.security.microsoft.com, which is one persona. You have the ones that are inside Microsoft 365. You have agents with inside Defender XDR. But it's all basically the same information. So now a lot of the concerns that he brought up on our first show back is now taken care of. I'm just going to call it Agent 365, even though that it's there's different personas with different names for the where you can see that functionality.
Yeah, I swung a miss on the Agent 365 stuff. It's so hard to focus. This is going to sound like a person who doesn't have good work-life balance. I generally read all their nice stuff over Thanksgiving. That way I can tune out my family and all the kids and dogs and stuff running around. And I just read through it. And it helps me be ready so that when my customers come back from the Thanksgiving, break, you want to get these sessions. They want to talk about very specific things. Can you come in? I'll give you one right now that someone's asking me about. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up. And you said forget about all the AI stuff. We said this on the show 2 years ago.
Sysmon. It was a joke about Sysmon. Come on.
Yeah. Secure AI Gateway public preview. Microsoft is introducing an identity-centric secure web and AI gateway, SWIG, SWG. Did we have a product called that a long time ago? Within the Microsoft Entra suite, Entra equals identity, people. By advancing Microsoft Entra Internet Access, SASE Edge, right? And inspects and prevents
global secure access product, which they're building out a lot more.
Yep. And protects generative AI traffic natively. So it has ability to tag that type of traffic pattern. Because someone asked me, how can we protect our users who go outside of environment that are using enterprise chat GPT, Perplexity, all that?
So you want to take a look at Agent 365. You want to take a look at some of the Purview stuff and also global secure access under Entra ID. So, and of course, your Defender for Cloud apps. So you want to take a look at all that stuff, and all that stuff can, that's where the solutions are for shadow AI, as they say.
Yeah, you said shadow AI. This is exactly what I was reading. Check this out. With a secure AI gateway, new features include the ability to filter prompts using Azure AI content safety with prompt injection protection and apply DLP policies directly for outbound web sessions with network file filtering within Purview. You're right on point. Blocking sensitive data from reaching unsanctioned GI applications. It also adds shadow AI detection and blocking also for unsanctioned MCP servers. For MCP servers, for our users who are mostly security but having to force into AI, is model context protocol. So being able to control the scope of what they are talking to, I guess, to improve the performance, right? So
what's important here is the fact that there's so many different products that are coming together to perform the security or to secure the solutions or what you're doing. One of the things I see out there is there will be an expert at Purview, an expert at Entra, and they'll be very good at doing their own thing or even training on those things, right? And they don't realize that there's that other piece that needs to be in there. So hopefully they'll update the SC100 course or have one that's more specific for AI to deal with the fact that you need a solution architect, a security architect here that understands these different pieces, to actually put it together. And I think more will come out over time, but just don't expect, hey, our Entra person is going to actually know everything to do. They're going to know their domain very well. They just don't understand how all these things come together to provide the solution.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. The SC100, which is the cybersecurity architect designation at Microsoft, is about to get teeth if they do it right. Because if I was that person and you are expected to have a certain amount of knowledge of architecting this, the first thing I would do is, you don't want to be a homer, right? And say, I'm a Microsoft guy, but you got to be. Because Microsoft has a NIST certified zero trust framework. I would pivot over to that zero trust framework and understand how these solutions fit into that zero trust framework when I'm designing this. Now, the caveat is, you assume that a customer is consuming primarily Microsoft security products and Azure products only. The platform is to play. Other than Palo and maybe Google on a good day, nobody else is taking this seriously. Google has the best potential to come on as a player and get in the ring. I don't really take AWS and Splunk as serious as I did, because they're putting boxing gloves on their feet when they get in the ring. I don't have to worry about you. You don't know what you're doing. But I think that Google is not the deficit of the capability of their products. And it's just my opinion. It doesn't reflect my employer, which is Microsoft, and anybody on this thing. is that the leadership needs to be able to get someone who can put their head around this. And they're missing a couple of pieces. We've had some guests on the show. They would just not come out of my mouth that says that if Google makes 2 strategic acquisitions, they would then take it seriously. Number one being they need an EDR solution. They don't have one. I don't know who they purchased. It ain't gonna be CrowdStrike. Nobody wants them. Will it be Sentinel One? Who knows? Once again, doesn't reflect the opinion. This is what one of my guests on the show came on and said. He was one of the partners. But when you look at it this way, the platform is so much more than XDR. I am wondering when Microsoft changes the nomenclature, when it doesn't say XDR anymore, it's something else, right? If zero trust, I don't know who trademarked that.
Well, I think there are different domains here when you talk about the Defender portal, but except they are doing more like cloud security, more posture management with inside there. So I mean, I don't even know how to think about this right now. Except there has to be somebody that understands these different domains and how to make them work together, like you were pointing out under the global secure access side, and how to bring all those pieces together. Even if they're not the ones pressing the buttons to make it happen, that they need to know about these solutions out there.
If I'm a CISO, and I may be one in the future self, if you want to make your life better for your reports, I don't know, deputy CISO, senior director of security, whatever, you put yourself in a disadvantage if you have product sprawl. If you still are pinning yourself to best of breed, you are introducing so much security risk by virtue of you're starting with the people. If you lose the mind share of a person who happens to be your Zscaler expert or this expert, and you got all these tools, sometimes it's better to have one throat to choke. Now, Microsoft is probably not going to win every Forrester, every Gartner, every ITD, every whatever thing. But think about it this way, and I told someone in the room, tell me something about you. And they told me, I'm married, have a wife, I have 3 kids, and something else. So I said, this is how you know you need to make sure you understand when someone's trying to sell your product. The product goes from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, can do a 90-degree turn, be able to break in so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. So why am I trying to sell a Porsche to a person that has a family and 3 kids? That has been the bane of what Microsoft is going to. They're selling the high point of the product. Don't compete that way. Look at the overall thing now. And if I was a CISO and I was trying to find a CISO job, some people may think it's a detriment, but I would sit here and say, specialize it in the entire Microsoft security ecosystem and complementing products to do it. Because you got to understand this stuff. You got security gateway, you got app lifecycle management, you got all these things here. And so how hard is it to make sure that either you keep the people that are running these disparate solutions up to speed and are happy? Because there is a risk if you get one of your top security product guys that say, I've had enough, or I'm going to retire. We're not building enough pipeline of the skill set because leaders are so impatient to let people come into their own. They want to hire unicorns, but they don't want to pay. You want me to be able to walk on water upside down with my eyes closed, but you want to pay for me to cross the street.
I got, one of the things is that this stuff is not difficult. You just need to know that you have to implement it. Most of the actual work is pushing buttons. I have to tell people that from there. But you forgot the most important announcement that you and Rod were like texting about, so excited about. Something to do with the E5 license.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe I have to bring this up. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're the one that created this whole. For all those that are listening, make no doubt, Franklin Graham Bird created and started the Security Insights podcast, not Edward. You brought me on kicking and screaming, and then Rod came next and all that. So this is you're in charge. So as we get ready to close the show, and maybe it'll be a topic because we're going to have someone that's going to come on to be able to talk about it in a very expert manner. Microsoft has announced in regards to Security Copilot as, I guess, the premier security AI, solution that's part of their future of their security landscape mission. If you are an E5 customer, and E5 stands for Enterprise 5 customer, and you have at least 1,000 licensed users in your subscription, aka tenant, you are eligible for 400 SCUs a month. And that's secure compute units. Secure compute units are the back-end way that you power Security Copilot on a use and metered and per time factor. If you're familiar with Security Copilot, you will realize how convoluted it was to be able to understand the billing of and purchasing of the SCUs to be able to run specific tasks within the standalone, which is Security Copilot portal, or the embedded, which was inside the Defender portal, XDR portal, which is security.microsoft.com. This announcement came at Ignite. So for every 1,000 E5 users that you have, you get 400 to a cap of 10,000 users. So at 10,000 users, you get, I think the math is 14,000 SCUs a month, right? I think that's the math. I'm not sure. So think about that. If you're one of Microsoft Enterprise customers and you have at least 1,000 licensed users, every month you get 400 SCUs to be able to run Security Copilot in standalone portal, the embedded portal, defender.microsoft.com or security.microsoft.com, or aka the XDR Defender portal, and or the agents that run within other specific portals: Purview, Entra, Conditional Access Agent, the Microsoft Phishing Triage Agent. And don't want to steal thunder, because we got a returning guest who's going to break this down to make this so important. Partners that are running and creating their agents that you can buy from the Security Store Marketplace. So when you buy a third-party agent, you now have the security compute units to run the agents that you purchased from a third party. So now those costs are mitigated. I won't say eliminated, because you still have to predict or understand how many SCUs a particular solution and or agent uses per execution. But think about it, the ante is being paid for you. You get to make the call or fold on whether you want to use it. Now, this should have been a long time coming. I'm not going to be the guy that says I told you so, but I told you so. We could have had this fixed a long time ago. But think about that. It's really available to go see. Go check it out. I'm thinking there's a clamor. I'm already getting my mailbox filled up. We want to talk about this. We weren't thinking about it. We want to use it now. We want to do this. And so now it's going to enable partners and our customers. Partners can create value-added agents that they build, and there's a way to protect their intellectual property. We had James Key on a show ago. But if you're building agents and security stuff in-house, you're able to now do the most basic things. You can lab this out and trend how much this is going to run and tune and optimize the performance of agents that you have based on the credit that you get from it before you deploy it into production. Now you have a good understanding, plus or minus amount of error, of how much it's going to cost you to run. So once again, 1,000 E5 registered users get you 400 SCUs per month per every 1,000 users, with a cap of 10,000. Now, some customers are going to go, why 10,000? Why are you capping me at 10,000 SCUs a month? I don't know the answer to that, but that's okay. So let me clarify that. Not a cap of 10,000 users. A cap of the maximum you can get is 10,000 SCUs a month. Because I personally have a client that has 55,000 users, E5. You can imagine if you do the math, that would go up. But you are capped at 10,000 SCUs a month. Now, you're not capped at a number.
User, 10,000 user Go ahead.
What did I say? Did I get it right?
You said you're capping them at 10,000 SCUs a month, which I think, are you trying to say that?
I mean users. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
maybe I should go into sales instead of this tech stuff. You know, I remember those important things.
Well, the sales stuff is dubious. If you're giving them, you're giving them, 25 each or 5 for $1 type of stuff. So where this goes, I don't know yet. We'll see. Because there were some customers that were absolutely consuming the thing about it. When we get into it, our next show on December 4th, we're going to bring the nuances, because there are some nuances you need to understand. This is not the typical where you are provisioned SCU as your standard reserve. These SCUs are considered overage SCUs. There's a very distinct difference. So you can buy one SCU and put it as your baseline SCU, and everything that's coming from your allowance from your E5 is going to be considered overage SCUs. You say, well, what's the difference? Wait till the next show. It really determines how you use them. You have to be very distinct and deliberate on how you use them. You'll find yourself like, what happened? How did this happen, right?
I look forward to learning about it.
So everyone, we are at time. Thank you for coming on to the show. This is pretty good. Ignite is always an exciting week. I missed it this year. I'll be back. We're still going to try to have a dedicated certification and learning thing. We're going to get back to our theme months. I know that we're doing the show twice a month, but I've gotten several pings that's like, hey, we love the once a week format. You guys are going to twice a month. You're killing us. We want more and more and more. I don't know yet. We'll have to talk to Franklin. We'll have to talk to Rod and see if we can go back to maybe 3 times a month. We'll see. We're all going to stay on Thursdays because Thursday is the best time. And obviously, this is all the nice stuff that's coming out. Please go look up the Microsoft Ignite Book of Security and the Ignite Book of Announcements, because the Ignite is not all about security. It's about the technology advances that Microsoft as a whole. I saw something where Microsoft has released 3 different database models now beyond Cosmos DB. And I'm like, I never heard of that. What database is that? They got one called Azure DB something. They have 3 distinct major database offerings that I was reading about. So I will, in addition to Fabric, right? You got Fabric. Fabric is one of them, but you got to go check those out. So if you're a security guy, you are being forced to become a data scientist. Kicking and screaming. That's what you're going to do. So until next week, everybody have time, do your thing, and stay diligent. All right, Franklin.